What is up, guys? This is Space Kryptonite, here to bring you the history of Robocraft, episode 2, where we will dive in on some more Robocraft juiciness and its primary origin of multiplayer. Some ostrich lover named Damo was supposed to be joining us, but unfortunately he was busy with stuff. So, without further ado, let's get to digging that diamond and continue from where we left off. Robocraft at this point in time was still in the single player stage, and the idea of multiplayer was on its bucket list, but it was still laying its foundation. Instead of rushing its development, new features were being implemented to synchronize the feeling of progression and a reason to play multiplayer. This was the birth of the tech tree on June 27th, 2013, but not in the vision that many remember. This was the original tech tree that was simple and easy to understand. You would unlock new parts using RP, then purchase the parts in the queue depot with RP. This at its core was progression, but not quite the glamorous progression since it was still in its early stage. As far as the deepest research has shown, there was no link to player level and the tech tree. This meant that you could unlock all the parts in the game as long as you had the RP. Not long after the implementation of the tech tree, a daily reward system was added, giving players 1000 RP for each day of logging in. And thus, the day of ostrich crates were born. The time for multiplayer was itching closer and closer, but one more feature needed to be added before moving forward. This was the birth of the battle bonus on July 12, 2013. This update provided the stats and income for players to earn RP in 3 ways. This was by collecting RP in the battlefield, racking up a kill chain, and a noob bonus. You are probably going to ask it anyway, so I will just give you a rundown. You get points for getting wrecked. Although the name of the bonus is quite harsh, the feature was a great one. It provided just enough RP for players to repair their bots, which means you wouldn't be losing income when repairing. There was several complaints about the name Noob Bonus, which was later changed to Bravery Bonus. Stacking a kill chain meant multiplying your RP collected with a secret value and adding that to your overall balance. The battle bonus was simply put your endgame stats and your paycheck for fighting in the battlefield. Within this release also came the release of tech points. These were used to unlock parts rather than RP, giving them more respected value. The way players would earn tech points was by simply destroying bots. With all the foundation ready for launch, multiplayer was prepared. This was the birth of Battle Online on July 15th, 2013. The way this worked was pretty simple and straightforward. Players would queue up and be placed into a server with a maximum of 6 players. This was straight vanilla Robocraft. No map, no chat, no teams, no spotting, no countdown. This at its core was a fun experience for many players, and the fun was everlasting. The launch was not one without fault. Large robots would cause immense amounts of lag when seen within render distance simply because there was no CPU limit, meaning there was no restrictions to what you could create. This was indeed the challenging task and a pavement to what the future of Robocraft would hold. Changes and updates would continue to pump out like wildfire, but obsoleting old features was something that needed to be done. About a week after the release of Battle Online, RP drops and the RP collector were removed. The idea was to replace collecting RP manually with just giving RP based off of damage dealt. This in turn was reaping what you sow. Multiplayer had a great process. It took time to carve out different bugs and crashes that were happening in its release. After much polishing, the next big update was ready to launch. This was the birth of No More Lag Bots on August 1st, 2013. Okay, I know it's cheesy, but this was the early stage where thumbnails and names of updates didn't really matter, so calm down. This update featured the second foundation to fixing a lot of problems, as well as molding Robocraft to a game with proper boundaries. This update included robot ranking, which played two roles at the time. It determined your CPU limit as well as determining your tier. Each part had a ranking number, which would determine the tier your robot would become. As it was intended to be like CPU, the max robot ranking can only be increased by leveling. This was the birth of tiers that many players would define, but was still in its early stage and didn't have the tier meter at the time. The server would split players that are queued up into two different categories, where higher ranking robots would versus each other and lower ranking robots would versus each other. With many minor patches and fixes along the way, Robocraft was gearing towards the next step, but before that, companies must do what needs to be done to continue production. This was the true implementation of Galaxy Cash on August 29, 2013. GC was implemented in the game for a while. There was no way to earn more since it was a paid currency, yet the feature to pay wasn't implemented until this day. GC was completely optional since you could earn parts with RP. At this time, all parts were available for both GC and RP. There was no tactical advantage except for the time of earning parts. As more players were joining in on Robocraft, the more options FreeJam had of adding more tiers. The tier count was increased to 3 tiers, and the implementation of the tier gauge, along with the release of the garage on September 9, 2013. Players would build their bots and now know what tier their bot is geared to go against. The capabilities of garages provided more room and space for having a library of bot designs. It only contained 3 free garage slots, so if you wanted more, you would have to purchase them with GC. About 4 days after this update, tiers were updated to feature tiers 1 through 10, and the robot CPU was implemented. Instead of using robot ranking to determine your limit, this was replaced with CPU. Your player level limits your CPU, while your robot ranking determines what robots you would face in whichever tier your ranking was geared towards. This was the finalization to the tier system, and a template to what Robocraft would revolve around. Along with the tiers update came the first legit game mode. This was the birth of Deathmatch. This game mode replaced Battle Online and was the leading mode to providing a true game. Deathmatch was a last man standing free-for-all mode. Players would queue together in an epic brawl where the last robot standing receives the victory bonus. From here, the state of the game was pretty structured. The game was reaching its cycle of playable completion. By this, I mean you can enjoy the game by building, driving, and fighting other players. There wasn't a whole lot of extra quality of life features since at the time the focus was on core foundations and updates were still providing content. Because of this, let's do the rundown of upcoming content added. The birth of Hoverblades, level 1 through 5 on October 7th, 2013. This was the second movement type added to the game. Hoverblades provided lift so your robot could hover off the ground. At this time, the only weapons were lasers, so using hovers were fairly equivalent to wheels, except for wheels not being able to flip themselves over, but at least the max speed still had its limits. Even with thrusters, it was quite balanced from wheels to hovers. The birth of Mars Sector 2 on October 7th, 2013. This was the second map added to Robocraft and utilized obstacles like never before. Helium Crater was simple, yet Mars Sector 2 provided opportunities for flanking, cover, and the setup for the upcoming team game mode. The update to free repairs on October 9th, 2013. This update gave an option for players to repair their bots in 3 ways. They could wait for the repairs to be done for free, pay RP to repair instantly, or pay GC to repair instantly. Of course, players had 3 garages, so playing a different bot while one is repairing is a quick solution to not waiting for repairs to be done if you are running low on RP. And lastly, the birth of Team Deathmatch. This Team Deathmatch was essentially elimination. There was no respawns, but there was friendly fire, and teams were colored blue and red for respective teams. The only way to win in this mode was to either eliminate all enemy robots or by capturing the enemy base completely. The more players on the enemy base, the faster the meter will fill up to secure the victory. No respawns also meant that dying before the match ends will not award you win bonus, even if your team does win. Friendly fire was added as a penalty factor. Shooting your teammates will not give you RP, but it does subtract RP from your balance based on what damage you did to your ally. Team Deathmatch provided more interaction than ever before by being the first mode to apply strategy towards battles, as you would have to work as a team to defeat your enemies. Overall, Robocraft was on the rise for production, and the content was pouring in. More and more content was being added, and the time for more diversity was getting closer. So that pretty much wraps it up for this episode. The juicy era of Robocraft is getting closer, so just hang tight. We will get there. If you didn't watch episode 1, here you go. I want to thank you guys for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe for all your robo needs. And until next time, this is Space Kryptonite logging out. I will catch you guys later.